I got voices in my head again, tread carefully, and I don't medicate, it helps me temporarily. I got problems, I got issues, yeah, apparently. Trauma that I'm burying, I think I need some therapy. I battled depression, I'm back with a message. I'm asking the question that if you hate me, why you acting obsessive? I'm past the point and no return, fuck being passive aggressive. I'll brandish a weapon, teach all you motherfuckers a lesson. Yeah. I actually battle my demons and shallows, and women the deep and the creep in the shallows. I'm lost. Gotta admit that I'm living the life that I've always wanted, but it comes at a cost. Yeah. They're licking the jobs, they're fixing to rip me apart. I'm swimming with sharks, I'm lifting the bar, I'm lifting the end of the stars. I'm like I shot up a trailer and mixed with some adrenaline. Started a battle, but bitch, I'm gonna finish it. Think you could stop me, not even a little bit. Nowadays, everybody's so sensitive. Picking my words and you picking apart. Tripping on nothing, just get in the car. Ripping and ripping and sticking the mark. I'm tipping the charts. I got enemies trying to get rid of me. Evil tendencies are fucking with me mentally. I got people that don't like me in the industry. I can feel your energy, you were not a friend of me. Cause I have been to places that you never wanna go. Yeah, I got dirt on people, but they act like I don't know. Yeah, I can do some damage, but I'll never rock the boat. All it takes is one post with some fun like John knows.
All right, welcome to the Sincity Tactical Show. We are going to bring Jax right in.
What's up, bro?
What's up, Jax? How's it going?
Oh, can't complain. 18 degrees here, but overall, no rain, no snow. So
we got 45 degrees where we're sitting, so it's not too bad. It's definitely something that I want it to get colder. It'll help with my day job. But, for now, we're going to keep it show related. So first thing we're going to do is go right into our patriotic message.
This year, America will recognize two important anniversaries that show us the majesty of America's mission and the power of American pride. In June, we mark 75 years since the start of what General Dwight D. Eisenhower called the Great Crusade, the Allied liberation of Europe in World War II. On D-Day, June 6, 1944, 15,000 young American men jumped from the sky and 60,000 more stormed in from the sea to save our civilization from tyranny. Here with us tonight are three of those incredible heroes. Private First Class Joseph Riley, Staff Sergeant Irving Locker, and Sergeant Herman Zaitchik. Please. Gentlemen, we salute you.
So, once again, with every patriotic message, it's going to be something military related, something to do with our country's heroes. My brother said something to me the other day. I kept calling him a superhero. He fought for our country just like Jax, being part of the military. And he told me, he goes, "I'm not a hero. My friends that didn't come back are the heroes." So when you hear me say the word hero and you're a veteran, don't take that personally. I, like many others who are not military, would not understand that unless it was explained to us. Me and Jax both are very patriotic in the sense of we care about our country, our freedoms, our rights, and that's why we do this podcast. Jax?
yeah, and obviously, I believe I've talked about it before, when veterans from that era, like World War II, Vietnam, and everyone that came before myself and Wes's brother, they got treated a lot differently than, guys like us do nowadays. And it's sad because for what they went through compared to what we've all gone through, it's the same thing. So I don't understand why they got treated so shitty back in the day, and we're just getting the nonchalant, oh, thank you for your service, and keep it moving right along. Don't they deserve the same amount of respect as us? So it's kind of nice seeing something like that for a change, where those guys are actually getting recognized for doing what they unfortunately at that time had to do.
Absolutely. I mean, speak about Vietnam, for example. That was obviously during a time in American history where war was definitely something that was being fought against. Clearly, it's something where the soldiers were not treated right when they came back. A lot of those dudes deserve our respect for the simple fact that they went and did something that none of us are willing to do unless you were in the military. Anybody who's watched the show before knows that that's a route that I wanted to go down. It just wasn't in the cards for me. But no, we got a lot of respect for our military, our veterans, and what our country does to keep all of us free to where we're able to have platforms like this and just talk. Now, granted, YouTube likes to censor a lot of things, which you've heard us say 1,000 times over, and you'll hear it 1,000 more times. We refuse to be censored on this podcast. You would have to completely remove our channels to try to silence us. And the best thing about that is you make a new email and a new channel and just keep it moving. So that's something that we'll dive into a little bit later. This is going to fall right in line with our Pro 2A news.
Permission to address the House for 1 minute, please.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Biden administration continues their all-out assault on the Second Amendment, as evidenced by the president's call just last night in this very chamber for banning weapons he finds objectionable. Democrats believe that the government should decide your God-given constitutionally protected rights. Their new ATF rule, published in the Federal Register, further threatens the rights of law-abiding citizens. It treats individuals who own pistols with stabilizing braces as if they possess illegal short-barrel rifles, and it forces them to surrender them to the federal government. If they don't surrender them, they're retroactively declared criminals for what was then a lawful purchase, and they now face up to 10 years in prison and a $250,000 fine. This is just another example of the Washington knows best elites who are out of touch with everyday Americans. So I introduced the Pistol Act to block the ATF from redefining pistol braces as short-barreled rifles. My legislation provides a simple statutory definition of a pistol and would prevent the Biden administration from improperly classifying pistol braces or regulating them by decree or fiat. The Second Amendment is not subject to bureaucratic interpretation, and we've got to continue to fight to protect the God-given, constitutionally protected rights of all Americans. And I yield back, Madam Speaker.
So this kind of goes back into the topic of what we were talking about on the last podcast, how I had expressed my thoughts and my feelings on the pistol brace issue. We kind of went in depth about how the ATF was trying to get people to register their so-called now SBRs, when we all know that the purchase was made legally. It was sold in a firearm store, a big box store that sells ammo and firearm accessories. It's completely heinous, the fact that they think it's going to go down like that. And once again, I'm going to keep it short and sweet on my end on this, and we'll let Jax have the opportunity to voice his opinions on it. It's funny if you think that taking the guns away from law-abiding citizens is going to stop anything, and quite frankly, trying to take pistol braces that were legally purchased and not an accessory that causes mass shootings or anything like that is ridiculous to me. Like like I said, I'm not doing anything until I know for a fact that somebody's coming to kick in my door. Then a brace may magically disappear in the Lake Mead. And of course, the water's dropping real crazy out here, and bodies are being found, and you're going to find a lot of pistol braces at the end of the day. But it's completely heinous what they're doing. We're going to keep updating you guys on this issue. Jax, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, personally, it's asinine that they think that taking away the pistol brace is actually going to do anything to solve the real problem. Number one, the real problem when you do the real breakdown with it, and it's like a couple other Pro 2A channels have said, bad guys, in at least 90% of the cases, if they're going to shoot you, they're going to shoot you. But it all comes down to training when it comes to the firearm. It's not, the equipment that goes onto the firearm. It's not, oh, hey, I'm going to use this solvent trap as a suppressor, or I'm going to take and use this pistol brace as a butt stock and shoulder the weapon. No, ultimately what it comes down to is taking away these pieces and trying to put a ban on them. It's not going to solve the problem because there's still bad guys out there that want to fucking basically make their own agenda. And if they're going to shoot you, they're going to shoot you point blank, bottom line. I was having a conversation with one of my coworkers about it today, and he couldn't even believe at the stupidity with the ATF. This was one of the first times he heard about it was just today, and he was kind of confused as to why they think that's going to solve anything. So it's not just myself and Wes. It's generalized public looking at this whole situation, going, "Are you guys kidding me?"
Yeah, it's like I said, completely asinine. I don't even know how many pistol braces I own, right? Like you can see two of them directly behind my head right off the bat, right? And of course I have other ones, but that's irrelevant to the situation. And then the ATF wants to go after 100 round drums and anything over 30 rounds. And listen, bro, it's not a situation where taking these items is going to help you. It's not going to help you stop anything. Like you said, at the end of the day, I am just as deadly with that pistol there as I am with that rifle there. Or this subcompact Scorpion here. Or the shotguns that you see on the wall. Or the hunting rifles you see on the wall. Nothing is going to stop me from doing something if I chose to do something. The pistol brace doesn't make me a more effective warfighter. It doesn't. At the end of the day, it does not. What was it designed for in the first place? To help veterans that were disabled, that could not, hold on to a rifle properly. That's what it was designed for. But my issue with it is simply this. Back in 2015, when the ATF made their ruling on it, they made it legal to shoulder the brace. And then in 2017, they reversed that ruling. And now they're playing this flip-flop back and forth, back and forth, back and forth game. And once again, it comes down to the simple fact that they are not a legislative branch. They don't make laws. It has to go through the court system, which, as you know, there's a lot of lawsuits going on right now where the ATF is being sued. They're trying to abolish the NFA items, which, that includes suppressors, right? Silencers, suppressors, whatever you want to call it, suppressor, right? Those type of items, they should not be regulated. They should not have to be on a list. They should not have to be watched. Law-abiding citizens are purchasing them from stores that legally have the right to sell those items. We're not buying them off the black market. That is illegal. I agree with you. Shut that down. If you can. It's called the black market for a reason, because it's untouchable pretty much. No matter what. You stop doing it, it's going to be an issue later. That's all I got to say on that piece. We're going to keep updating you guys on this. And Jax, if you got anything else to add to the Pro 2A news.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head with that. Ultimately, at the end of the day, instead of looking at the law abiding citizen going to these big box stores and buying, the braces, the solvent traps for cleaning, go after the ones that are out there illegally selling all these parts and making money in the underground black market. That's where the bad guys are getting it from. They're not walking into your Sportsman's Guide or, Cabela's and buying these things. So ultimately, it's more about the person and not the firearm in general. I mean, we've had conversations about this before, where you can load a firearm up, lay it down on the table with the round chambered, mind you. Please shoot me, do something, kill somebody. I dare you. Gun's not going to go off. It's the person behind the gun, and the ATF need to realize that, along with the fact that they also need to realize they don't make laws, they enforce them.
Exactly. 100%. They were not designed to create laws, they were designed to act on them. And it's funny that they're at a point where if they don't try to go after the law abiding citizens, they're not going after the bad guys enough to where they have to do something. So they're going after the law abiding citizens to prove that they have a reason to be an entity in the first place. But enough about that. We're going to keep it moving. The next thing we're going to go into is going to be our shout outs and sponsors. All right. So once again, usual Wendy from Sight Shooter, personal firearms trainer out here in Vegas, close friend of mine. She works with a lot of brand new shooters, low caliber handgun rounds, little rifles, things like that, 22s, just to get you started. She also does teach some more advanced classes when it comes to like home defense, when you're in the car, how to protect yourself, when you're out and about, dark parking lot, things like that. So she's very well versed. She's been in the industry for quite some time. And every time I talk to her, it seems like she's traveling to some other state to go to another gun seminar or to go to another training. She's got training on long guns, short guns, handguns, shotguns. She's very, very dialed in, sightshooter.com. TAC Pack, like I said in the last episode, reached out. They are going to be sending their TAC Packs, which is a monthly subscription service. So we'll get that going again here soon. I think they said not this month, but next month another box should be showing up, and we can do an unboxing on that. And then there is a new sponsor to the channel that I want to talk about. It is the Tactical Brotherhood. It is another type of group like TACX or the NCCA, where you can get discounted parts and accessories from like Optics Planet, things like that. So check them out. And Jax, I know you've got some shout outs and sponsors.
Yep. So, like you said, TACX Pro Gear and NCCA. We're going to go ahead and just start out. Code's old as time, especially with us being around now for 5 seasons. This is technically, realistically, going to be episode 1 for the audio side of it. You guys kind of got privilege here on the video side with 2 priors. So welcome to season 5, folks. But the promo code over there still is Overlander25. That'll get you, a little bit of savings on your TACX Pro Gear items, along with anything you purchase at NCCA. Nextly, one thing I'm working on, like Wes said, we have a new sponsor, so we're trying to add more in as we go on. I'm in the works right now of trying to get us partnered up with GovX. They are pretty similar to TACX, TAC Pack. The only difference is they realistically work with like first responders, police, prior military, current military, that sort of thing, with what their product is aimed at. So it's really awesome that they have that out there. Definitely go ahead and check those guys out too. Currently, they're not a sponsor, but hopefully here in the near future they will be.
Absolutely. And a question just came in through the chat from Chris. Thank you, Chris, for watching the show. We appreciate your input. Chris asks, how do you guys feel about gun control? We've talked about this in previous episodes, but sure, let's dive back into it.
Why not?
Gun control, as you can see, is bullshit. As you can see, I've got things on the wall that are not something that is a standard item in most households. For example, 10-round magazined shotguns and things like that. My take on gun control is simply this. I have a lot of training in firearms. I've gone through a lot of classes. I've got RSO certifications, and anybody who knows me knows my background and knows things that I've done. And I'm just not going to dive into that too much more. But gun control, yes and no, right? Do I believe you should be able to walk into a gun store in 30 minutes and walk right out of it with processing a 4473, which is your NICS background check forms? No, I don't believe that that's something that should be able to be done. NICS should not be approving them that quickly. It is very easy to walk in with a fake smile just to get a firearm and then go to work and blast everybody. So I'm completely against that. People with CCWs can walk in, purchase the firearm, and don't have to go through the NICS process completely. You still have to fill out the 4473, but having that permit allows me to purchase it without having to do another background check. That means I've gone through at least 8 hours of training. 4 hours classroom, 4 hours physical shooting with a licensed instructor to prove I am proficient with my firearm. So yes, I agree that gun control should be a thing, but not in the way that they're trying to do it. Doing gun control in the sense of, you can't buy this until you're this age, and you can't do this because of this reason is bullshit, right? Why is it okay that an 18-year-old could buy a rifle and a shotgun, but they cannot buy a pistol? I can be super, super accurate with a hunting rifle at a much farther of a distance than I'm going to be accurate with a pistol. And you're going to give that to someone who is younger in age with hormones still growing and still processing. That's bullshit. If I'm legally old enough to buy a firearm, I should have access to every single firearm that I can legally possess. Chris just made another comment saying, but we should do mental health background checks. That kind of falls in line with what I'm talking about, right? So your FFL dealer, something that I have experience in. I've worked for some gun stores. I was part owner of a gun store. That's why I'm saying that having a 30-minute walk into a gun store, do a background check, and leave is not enough time. As an FFL dealer, or even working at a shop, your associates are going to be able to somewhat gauge what's going on. That's going to eliminate that fake smile. What I'm getting to for my form of gun control should be this. You should have to go through an 8-hour training course to buy your first firearm. Not necessarily get a CCW. Maybe that's a different class entirely. But you should have to go through some kind of safety training class first with a certified instructor. And then a physical shooting course. How do you do that? Like I said, Wendy from Sight Shooter. She usually supplies the firearms that you're shooting with and you're trained. If I am able to spend an hour or two with you in my store, I might be able to gauge, hey, look, this might be an issue, right? Because we have the right to refuse service to anyone at any given point. I know, at least with my store, if you walked in smelling like marijuana or alcohol, we would ask you to leave and come back at a later time when your judgment may not be impaired. That is a right that I had as a store owner or working for a shop. And I think that was one way that we could do it. We can't stop it because, once again, this goes back to the black market. If somebody's going to get a gun to do damage, they're going to get a gun to do damage. But yes, I do believe that there should be some type of length of term before you can just walk in and buy a gun. Jax?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that partially, but it's my idea of gun control isn't so much just gun control, it's more idiot control. I mean, let's be honest, like we've talked about, it's not the gun that kills a person by itself, it's the person that's physically behind the trigger that pulls the trigger, sending the round downrange, and ultimately ends up committing the act of murder. I agree with the mental health background checks as well as going through like a CCW course or a firearm safety course. It's one of those kind of gray areas where, like you said, they walk in, file for their background check, and then just walk out within 30 minutes. Now, for us up here in Minnesota, at least certain stores I know they have a specific, thing where, all right, you come in, you do the background check, 30 minutes to fill that out, but you physically cannot come and pick up the weapon until that background check is cleared. So, it's, you got your give and your take. Ultimately, I feel like background check's part of it, mental health is part of it, along with the overall, when you do the CCW course and you do the, actual behind the trigger portion of it, I feel like part of that application process should be you have to physically bring your certificate, your target that you actually put rounds downrange on, along with your carry permit to be able to match everything up with that and the background check as well. So, more so idiot control and gun control.
Yeah. I disagree with you on one part, man. The mental health background check, that's a slippery slope. And what I mean by a slippery slope is I would rather leave it to the FFL in how they physically judge yes or no, because this comes back to like HIPAA laws and things like that, right? I should not have to disclose anything medical related. Obviously, right, there's things where if you're diagnosed with certain things, it goes into a database and it automatically flags. But how do we know someone who's got mental health issues that's never been diagnosed?
Yeah, you have a point there. I guess, okay. From the standpoint I was taking on the mental health background check, yeah, I'm not sure if me and you had a conversation about this, but a buddy of mine, the one I was telling you that I go and see at least once a month, everything was fine. He got, his permit to purchase, of age, whatever.
Yeah.
Sitting at home one night by himself while Ma and Pa were out, heard something downstairs. Now, granted, it was on the east side of St. Paul, so I don't blame him for getting up and checking out the situation. Well, they have a black lab mix, and as most dog lovers know, black labs are hyperactive dogs. They love jumping, the whole nine. So as he's doing, a clear check of the house, dog jumps up on him, gun comes flying up, booger hook in the bang bang switch, squeezes off a couple rounds. Now, ever since the accident, he hasn't been quite right in the head, because he got hit twice. Thankfully, he's still alive. But that's something that, I think to a degree should play a part in some scenarios, but not like necessarily inside the gun store. Like when you go through the CCW course, you get, your certificate and you got to turn it into the county sheriff's department. I feel like when you do that portion of it and turning it into the county sheriff, I think that's something where if they are going to add that into gun control laws, that should be done there as part of that $100 fee for filing.
Right. So I'm going to say this, right? Once again, this comes back to me and Jax don't always agree on everything. But we'll voice it how we feel, and that's it is what it is. It's a live stream, so it's going to come out there. Chris put he was talking more about mental health as in a function of crime, like attempted suicide or domestic violence. Now, okay, hold on. There's a second part to that. Let me ask you guys this. Why do you think it's such a problem here, like school shootings and the like, and why is it a problem that only we seem to deal with?
Simple answer. I'm going to be the first to call it out. With the school shootings, bad parenting. They leave their shit out in the open for their kids to get to. And 90% of the time, it's kids that are bullied, right? So not only is it bad parenting, but it also goes into bad school districts. If they shut down bullying at that level, well, you can disagree, Wes, but
we're gonna get into it.
Cases,
we're gonna get into it, bro.
I mean, okay. A lot of it stems from that.
All right.
You find out later on down the road that their at-home life is horseshit, and they go in and shoot up a school. Well, how are these kids getting these guns? They're not going out and buying them off the nearest gangbanger. Kids at that age don't have that type of money. They're getting them at home where parents or potential gangbangers are leaving them around for the kids to have easy access to.
You ready?
I'm ready. Fire.
All right. Well, I'm gonna fire away. So here's my thing. You can't stop bullying. Bullying is not going to stop. No matter the amount of parenting that we can give our children, bullying is something that is almost primal. And what I mean by almost primal is what? You look at a pack of wolves, a pride of lions, someone or something is going to rise to the top. There's going to be an alpha, and then there's going to be subordinates with that, right? So you can't stop it. And even if you try to mitigate it at school, which obviously don't let them, right? You see it, stop it. As a faculty member, I'll say. But you're not there on the bus to stop it. You're not there on the walk home to stop it. Those things are something that we can't avoid. Now, where I'll say that parenting does come into play is simply this, right? I was taught growing up not to be the bully, but if you see it, you stop it, right? I was raised in an environment where you protect your friends who are not on the level of self-defense that you may be on. You protect the handicapped. You protect the disabled. You do those things, but you can't prevent it. So yes, in a aspect of it, I agree with you. In an aspect of it, I disagree with you. A lot of it, yes, like you said, parenting when it comes to physically having the firearms out in the open. Obviously, you see my firearms are where they're at. Every single member of my family in my household can get behind any one of the guns that I have here on the wall. It is extremely proficient, can take apart that firearm, can clean that firearm, disassemble it to be able to do repairs. In the event that it needed to be done, may not be able to do the physical repair, but understand the process. Now, not to discredit anything to do with your buddy, right? Because I get it. You hear a noise, you react, right? His situation, and I do not mean to offend you or your buddy in any way, shape, or form. Finger on the trigger is a never.
Oh, I agree with you. You are
taught to clear a house or to clear a structure, especially on like an AR platform. I have a 45-degree radius selector, ambidextrous, one on each side. When you're moving, it's on safe. When you're going to do target acquisition, you're off safe. Finger never goes on the trigger. unless it has to.
Yep.
Now, what I will say with this, and this is something that you can't really train for, is this: fear. You're already in a high adrenaline state. You're moving and clearing. And I don't know anybody who's popping lights on when they're clearing a house. I would rather run a light on my gun and catch you off guard if you're the intruder than you see me coming, right? So that's one factor. Now, training. It is not a toy. It is a tool, right? So your buddy's situation may have been preventable, and that's why I say I'm not trying to be offensive in any way. But I want to speak on the domestic violence and the domestic violence with firearms. Let me specify. That's a negative. You can't do that shit. You do that goes into a registry. That shit gets took from you. You're not allowed. Done. That's a fucking wrap, right? I would not allow that. That would be a big issue, right? You don't use a firearm as a situation to be controlling in that way. Attempted suicide with a firearm. That's a touchy one, right?
Yep.
Attempted suicide in any way obviously is not good. Most of the time it can be worked out. There's always a different way out. Does that mean that you should lose your constitutional rights? Everybody's got a story. Everybody's got something that could push them to that point. I would say if the attempted suicide is a matter of you physically pulled the trigger and you failed, yeah, you're no longer getting a gun. That's got to stop, right? I'm not going to allow that to happen. I would not be okay with that, because if you're willing to pull the trigger on yourself and fail, you're willing to pull the trigger on somebody else, and clearly your mind is at a state where you can justify that action. So I disagree with that. And Chris, to answer your question, Jax was in the military. He's former military. Myself, I was not military, unfortunately. But yeah, he did serve.
Yes, I was with the 134 Red Bulls out of Arden Hills here in Minnesota. I was National Guard, not full-time active duty, but, still, if I could go back and do it again, being young, dumb, 18, fresh out of high school, I would. There are days where I definitely miss it, but, it's nowadays it's not like it used to be when the rest of the members of my family that were in. So by the time my first contract ended, it was just time to get out. I thought, test it out, see if it was how it was back then. If it was, I was probably going to do my 20 and then get out. But, it's an ever-changing thing, like everyday life. And it's a new army, so.
Ain't that a fact? It's not what it was. That's for sure. I still respect every single person that joins up and does all that. But obviously, I think our missions and our motives are not aligned with what they should be. And Chris, to speak on the other comment that you had, we're not disposed to just thinking that you're some boy or just, not gun rights. This is a platform. This is why we built this channel. We are not going to take it into a situation where when we're talking to people or interacting, like you've been very interactive with us, which we greatly appreciate, we're not ever going to shut down what you're saying. We try to be relatable. I want to look at it from your perspective. I want to look at it from the anti-gun perspective. Let me put it this way. Touchy subject. And I don't like really talking about it, but we're going to get into it. So, we look at both sides of the fence and we're not judgmental on your thoughts, your feelings. If you're against guns or if you're for guns, that's great. You have your opinion. And I will say this, the people that are anti-gun, your fear does not trump my right to protect me and my family. Now, to talk about the touchy subject a little bit that I don't necessarily want to talk about, but because Chris is being interactive, I'll put it this way, to prove that it's something where we're not objective and like our mainstream media and trying to push an agenda. I have a family member that succumbed to firearm violence. Yeah. I could have went one of two ways. I could have been very, very anti-gun. I could have been take all the guns, gun control this, everything else. But I'm not. I look at it as something where I refuse to be a victim. And my family member that had this act done would have been more than willing to do anything that was asked. And the gun was definitely in the wrong person's hands at that time. And that's why I got into this, is because I wanted to talk about gun safety. And I wanted to talk about, why firearms are a tool and not a weapon per se. They're there to defend you and to be a weapon when it's needed. And I am completely against gun violence crimes if it's not justifiable. My stance is this. I'm an alpha. I'm a protector. That's me through and through. Jax as well. That's why he signed up. That's why 99% of people that join the military sign up. They're protectors. They're alphas. They want better for our country, for our communities. I would rather be the one at your Walmarts, your Targets, your Costcos that is willing to lay their life on the line to protect others. But I refuse to be a victim where I'm helpless and I sit back and look back and see my family in danger and there's nothing that I can do to stop it. That's my reasoning. I agree with gun control in certain aspects if it's done correctly. I agree that mental health issues when it comes to firearm-related crimes should be addressed, but it has to be done systematically and it has to be done properly. If we don't do that, we're barbarians. If we don't look at it correctly and address it correctly, we're no better than the criminal at the end of the day. Jax?
Yeah, I agree. When I first reached out to Wes, so before we started doing the video side of things, we were on the Anchor.fm app doing the audio side of things, and that blew us up into pretty much anywhere you can get your podcasts on the audio side of it, and so that was awesome. But when me and him first were sitting down and talking about this, my biggest thing with it was, there is a lot of situations out there like what I had with my buddy and what Wes had happen with his family member, where guns sadly were involved in that case. But it's not necessarily about the firearm in and of itself. It's about the people behind the firearm and the training and being proactive. And when you said don't want us to think that you're just this soy boy that's against guns, that's not the case. I myself, I've sat down and I've talked with guys and gals that are pro 2A and against 2A, and they have their reasons why. But that kind of goes back into being basically part constitutionalist too. When you think about it, your First Amendment right of freedom to speech is protected by your Second Amendment right, which is protected by your third, follows down the line. Ultimately, at the end of the day, as Americans, you have the right to speak how you feel. And if somebody's threatening your life, you have the right to bear arms and it shall not be infringed upon. So when I joined the Army, part of it was family tradition. The other part of it is I'm not one of those guys to just bow down easy and be taken advantage of. I'm willing to defend those that I love, those I care about. You know, for instance, like with me and Wes, we're pretty much halfway across the United States from one another. And Wes has been here. Eventually, I'll be planning a trip down when I've got enough PTO built up to go down to Vegas down there and watch the Knights and Wild game. But this isn't just a friend. This is my brother. I call his daughter my niece. It's, it's one of those things where if you're around me and in my circle, you're family. And so, we love when people comment like this and ask us questions, no matter what stance they have with the pro Second Amendment.
Absolutely. And with that, like you said, it's one of those things where if you're anti-gun, and I'm not talking about you specifically, Chris, I'm talking about just in general, if you're anti-gun, you have that right. If you're pro-gun, you have that right. It's not my place to try to persuade you one way or the other. And quite frankly, my whole thought process, and anybody who's watched the show before will know, and if you've watched any of the videos, I'm pretty proficient in shooting. High rate of speed, slow speed, accurate speed, doesn't matter. The first thing I'm going to do is get off the X. I ain't trying to go to the gun. The gun is not it's not the answer. It is a means to an end, but nobody talks about what happens after the trigger's been pulled, right? There's going to be mental issues after the fact. If there isn't mental issues after the fact, you probably shouldn't have a gun in the first place. Because if you don't have somewhat of a sense of remorse after pulling the trigger, even in a justifiable homicide situation, you probably shouldn't have a gun in the first place. Remorse is something that has to follow. But my goal would be instantly, if I see a threat, I want to get my family out. I want to get them away from the incident. I don't want there to be that situation at all. If I can avoid it, I'm going to avoid it. The gun is the last option, right? I would rather throw a punch and run or kick you in the knee or something stupid, along those lines and run than I would be to just go to the gun. But the gun is there if I need it. And I'm well trained. And that's what I want for any law-abiding citizen who owns a firearm, is to train. Do not buy a gun because one situation happened where you got scared and you feel like you need to protect yourself. You buy it, you buy a box of bullets, then you never shoot it. It goes into the end table and it's never touched. You don't need a gun if that's what you're planning on doing with a gun. If you're not constantly trying to be proficient with the firearm, you should not have it, right? Obviously, every gun I have on the wall has been fired. I don't fire every single one of them every time I go. Now, granted, people that go shooting with me will tell you 9 times out of 10 I bring all of these firearms with me. But I am training, and I am constantly being proficient. It's like riding a bike. You can get behind the gun and pull the trigger, but if you're not constantly working to be accurate with it, you shouldn't have it. It's not just a display item. If you're not running them, don't have it in the first place. But thank you once again, Chris, for being super interactive with us. And thank you for saying good luck on the channel, and that you'd trust both of us to be firearm owners, because we seem knowledgeable on the firearms and things like that. With that being said, that speaks about the Patreon.
Yeah,
Hold on real quick. That speaks to the Patreon. We do more detailed and extensive stuff on Patreon when it comes to like cleaning firearms, breaking down firearms, more of a training type of content that may be something that you're interested in. And I would never guess that you're anti-gun or anything like that, because you sought out our channel and we're willing to interact, which means you're willing to learn and to educate yourself. And that's all I could ever ask of anybody. Jax?
Yep. As long as, people are willing to learn, that's the main thing. And, thank you for your support. It was a long 6 years, many ups and downs, but at the end of the day, I wouldn't have went back in time and changed it. So it's one of those things where I appreciate everybody that goes in still nowadays, but they're with everything changing because it is a newer service. I kind of, and I'm not knocking them all, but I feel like guys shortly after me and then back are the last of a dying breed.
Fact. All right. So, I mean, we definitely took a right turn there. We've got one more category that we're going to go through, and this may be something that you're interested in seeing, Chris. We do a tactical gear review. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start off with Jax.
All right. So, being as we're on the range talk, my tactical gear review items, my range bag here, made by Field Line, Walmart brand, but it gets the job done. You got the desert tan coloring to it, which is nice. Got your brass pickup bag, because anybody who goes to the range and is a brass monkey like myself and Griff, who has been on the show in previous episodes from previous seasons, pick up your brass, toss it inside there, bring it home. If you reload, if not, go ahead and dump it in the brass bin. Nice part. It's got the zipper on the top, but that's not all. It Velcros, so it's kind of a devil security feature. You got 3 different little pouches up here on top to store stuff in. I mean, honestly, I don't think I have anything in these because I haven't had to use them yet. Nope, those are empty. But when you buy it, it comes with 2 firearms pouches. And, we can't touch firearms on a live stream, but what you do is you take your firearm, pull out the magazine, you put your firearm inside this little zip up. That zips closed, your firearm's safe, secure inside there. It's dry, nothing's getting wet. You got one big slot where both of those pouches go. You also have 2 little side pockets in there. I like to keep a smaller screwdriver set in case you have to adjust optics, turn the sight in. The other side's empty, but if you had any other tools like an Allen wrench or, God forbid, a front sight post tool to adjust that, you can stick that in there. Normally on one of these here side pockets, I keep my ear pro normally. But as of right now, I've got the shoulder strap sitting in one of them. So it's kind of nice to have that in case I ever decide to get lazy and not want to carry it by hand. The other one, let's see. I believe it's empty, which it is. Cool. Then, on one of the front side pockets here, you've got magazine wells where you can stash your magazines at, along with another side pouch back here. And then you can stash more stuff up front, whether it's your quick reload, if you shoot competition, things like that. That comes in handy having the space for. And then on the other side here, same style of pocket, almost. to a degree. I've got a spare quick draw mag for my competition belt there. And then you've got this little almost meshing, well, not mesh, it's more of a plastic mesh side zipper pocket. Keep my old style PT gear fleece cap in there for cold days out at the range. Always nice to have that. Got to have a gator neck in there as well, so you're not freezing your balls off. And everything else that goes in this pocket normally is my iPro, extra sets of ear pro if anybody else is coming to the range with myself and Griff. I know he brings out his range bag too, so we've got plenty of room for everybody's gear if they don't have a range bag and we need places to store it. So overall though, I believe if I remember correctly at Walmart I spent maybe $18 on this bag, and so far I can't complain. I have no complaints about it. It's durable, it's held up, and I love the thing. It does what I need it to do and gets the job done. So now we're going to go ahead and move on to Wes's tactical gear item for this week.
All right. So for my tactical gear item, we're going to talk about TSA approved travel cases. It has a depressurizer on it, so when it's going up in an airplane, obviously the cabin where the luggage is not kept at the same pressures as us when we're physically sitting in a plane. It does have a feature where you can lock both sides. You do have to have a dual lock system, I believe. What's nice about it is waterproof as well. It's like a Pelican style case. It's got nice foam to help with retention of your firearm. The actual foam insert is the small squares that can be cut out to form to what you're trying to put into it. And then it has a deeper pocket as well. So you can do like a firearm on this one, firearm underneath, some magazines, and things like that, which makes it nice. These cases are also good for storage, so you don't have a firearm safe or a place to put the guns away. Obviously, with my firearms on the wall, they could be taken down easily and put away. But as you heard, I do have a kid in the house. So with that being said, firearm protection is a big thing. Cases like these are very, very important. And another thing when it comes to that is you can see here, multiple firearm gun locks. Those are very important too. Even inside of a case, you run this down the barrel of a pistol or something, that allows you to also be extra protective with it. And then for your AR style physical locking devices, you've got the ejection port lock, where this literally slides right into where your shell would be kicked out from. It's got a key. You literally put it in, you lock it like this, pull the key out. Now that firearm does not run. These also work on shotguns, AR-10s, AR-15s. Very handy to have. That speaks to the gun safety measures that we were talking about. So even if you don't have a gun safe or a Pelican style case that you can lock or whatever the case may be, putting physical locks on your firearms are very important. Now obviously I have I should say, a floating shelf that would open up, drop down a gun, whatever. Because of course if all of your guns are 100% locked up, you can't do the whole home defense protection aspect of it. But all the other firearms being either secured properly, like when I go to leave my house, my bedroom is locked. Got a key lock on it to where you cannot get into the room without that key. I do that every single time I leave my house because I'm not going to allow it to just be readily available for anyone and everyone. So that kind of speaks back to the school shooting and things like that. But yeah, the TSA approved cases, Pelican style cases, can be very handy when it comes to travel and or physically at home, locking up and securing your firearms. Jax?
Bad guys can go ahead and get your firearms. Where with something like what Wes has, with the whole setup, firing, well, not even firing pin locks, more so you put it in your star chamber on an AR-15, you flag it, whatever. Nothing's getting inside there. You've got your trigger locks, your lockable gun cases. At the end of the day, it comes down to gun safety. Like I myself, in my bedroom, I've got 2 different safes. One's for documents and the other one's for firearms when they're not in use. Now, that's more so because of the fact that me and my significant other have the nephew come over. He's knee high to a grasshopper still at 6, 7 years old. Or no, not even 6, 7. Yeah, he's about 7, 8. Young kid, but I lock it up every time. I don't need him getting into it and running around not knowing what he's doing. He's a good kid though. He does listen. So, but what it comes down to is situations like that, have things for your everyday needs as a firearms owner. Make sure you have all your locks, your safes, cleaning kits, stuff like that. I feel like we've kind of gone over a lot of gear over the last couple of years, and a good majority of that gear on my end I bought, paid out of pocket for. I know a majority Wes has paid out of pocket for outside of what he's gotten from Tac Pack, and they send some pretty cool items out too. I believe they sent out a couple different magazines. Some, I thought I swore he had a couple different flags from those guys to stash inside the AR-15 along with other various gun parts. So it's kind of awesome with some of the stuff that we are able to show you guys on this channel.
Absolutely. Another thing to make a point on, especially when it comes to your handguns, holster. If you don't have a safe, if you don't have an ability to lock it up or whatever the case may be, even in my nightstand, I keep my firearm in a holster. Now, this is a minimalist holster inside the waistband. It is literally just a snap-on trigger guard. And it doesn't matter how well trained you are with your firearm. You don't ever want your trigger just randomly exposed. You don't want it floating around in a drawer where you accidentally go to stick your wallet in it or whatever the case may be, and you accidentally touch the trigger and it goes off. So that's going to be the biggest thing for me is the gun safety. And that's what you're going to get every single time you watch this show. We're going to preach gun safety over and over and over and over and over again, because that's the number one thing. Being a law-abiding citizen and a law-abiding gun owner, if you're not safe with your firearm, you're just as bad as the criminals.
Yeah, exactly. Few big things there too, like with that minimalistic holster when he stores it. Like he said, you don't want an ND. Number one, negligent discharge, if those of you out there watching don't know what an ND is. But you also don't want to end up with a Darwin Award.
Right. Fact. on our channel here for the Sincity Tactical side, at least the MN division has their own separate channel. But on this channel, at least, there are about 8 videos on negligent discharge that you can watch where I kind of narrate what's going on, call things out on what they could have done better, what happens when you get complacent with a firearm. If I'm going to store a gun or pick up a gun and handle it, either check to see that there's a round in it or clear it safe. Never hand a firearm to somebody without clearing it safe. Even when you're at the range, don't just set it down on the table with a round in it. Clear it safe every single time. But that's going to wrap it up for today's show, you guys. Thank you so much for watching and being interactive. And we look forward to talking and doing this again in a couple weeks, every other week. So not this week coming, but the week after will be another show. Jax, anything you want to say before we send them away?
Yeah, couple things. I got to get on the same level as you with those extra videos on my channel, so stay tuned for that. But outside of that, it's been good to be back. Yeah, I believe this is what, our third one we've done so far back.
Fourth.
Oh, fourth.
Yeah.
Cool.
We've done 4 to this point. First one for the audio side, fourth one for video.
Okay, cool. But outside of that, what I'm getting at here is it's good to be back. We also have our gaming live streams going on too. If you want to come join us for that and participate, you can find mine over on Twitch under Jack's DVDMC. You'll find all the Sincity Tactical stuff there as well. And Wes's Twitch channel is attached to that, along with all the other social media feeds. So we're looking forward to getting back to you on the next one, and we'll catch you on the next show.
Later.